What's up? It is another episode of the Hoof Live. We have very special guests, two special guests. We got my guy down there, Joe Marino, the one and only. What's up, man? How you doing?
What's going on, Sterling? I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. This should be fun.
And then we got the Prohauska. Hey, are you like, where does your name come from, dude? Because
my last name?
Yeah.
So we can do this. And this is what the whole episode is going to be about, breaking down my last name origins. I'm down.
1 hour of
breaking news. Right? Breaking news.
Breaking news. Yeah, so my last name is Prohauska, and it comes from, it's Czech. So in the Czech translation, it's Prochaska with a C and a Z. But when family came to America, they changed it to make it easier to pronounce. So my last name is Czech.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I don't have a cool name like that. My last name's Furrow, and we don't. None of us know where that's from. So
yeah, but you're better looking than I am. So I feel
no, man. You got that John B look.
I'm out. I'm logging off.
Oh, logging off. He's done. And then we got my guy Anthony. You know, Anthony's not wearing the Bill suit. You pretty much can't do that anymore, right? You know, but it's okay. You got the work suit on, but it's good to see you. And Eric's got the fresh new cut.
Yeah. Had to go high speed, you know.
You look like a total snowflake over there. You're so pretty. You're so pretty. But it's good to have you guys on, man. It's Buffalo Bills free agency day 2. This is the Cover One Network, and we're giving it to you live. You know, we got Joe Marino here from the Draft Network. And Joe, before we get started, I mean, I know everybody knows who you are, but can you give our listeners who maybe don't know you a little background into what you do in your work?
So my name is Joe Marino, and I host the Locked On Bills podcast as well as the Draft Dudes podcast, and I guess their daily podcasts on the draft and on the Buffalo Bills, and obviously I do all my written work over at thedraftnetwork.com. So I just do football stuff all day, and I'm grateful
awesome
to be on with you guys.
Talk
tonight.
about living the dream, man. It's awesome. And you do a great job at it, as we all know. So anybody who listens to Bills content should be listening to Locked On Bills. That's for sure.
All right, so as we get this thing kick-started, man, we want to just give a few shout-outs. We got Nathan in the house. He says, Sanders deal is a bit high for my taste. Mm-hmm. We got Kurt Lewis in here. Thank you for watching the show. Not sure either about Sanders, a little long in the tooth. Is he a big of an upgrade over Smoke? Who has AR? Whatever that is. But we just
ran out of characters
there. Yeah. But we got some guys in here, so we want to say what's up to Lone Wolf and all of you guys who are here to kick it with us tonight. So we are definitely, as news breaks, we will definitely give it to you. But we kind of modeled the show a little bit different tonight. We're just going to get right into it. We're not going to really get into too much that's gone on around the league. So let's start with this Matt Haack news. I know a lot of you guys out there are on the boho train. Mr. Corey Bojorquez, but it looks like the Bills are they're done with Mr. Bojorquez. So Joe, we'll start with you, and Eric will end with you on the Matt Haack thing. So what are your thoughts?
Matt Hack's an inconsistent punter. You know, he had his best year of his career this past year, but you look at the full inventory of his career, and the guy's got a lot of shanks. I mean, this is the guy that hit that line drive right to Isaiah McKenzie that resulted in an 84-yard touchdown return. And I think his yards per return allowed was over 12 last year. And Miami overall had good special teams, except for covering punts. I think the trade-off here is Bojorquez gives you the booming leg. He can flip the field for you if you're pinned deep in your own territory. What you get from Haack is a lot better control. A guy that's very good at not putting the ball in the end zone for touchbacks. He's very good at inside the 20 punts. So in terms of pinning teams back, that's a good thing, but it's kind of questionable to me when you think about how aggressive the Bills were with going for it, when they were close to the 50s. And I thought the real value when you watch the Bills offense was having a guy that can flip the field when you go 3 and out, and you're backed up into your own territory and you're like, oh crap, but at least you got Boho that can boom the ball down the field. So you're hoping for more control and consistency, not gaining touchbacks. The discrepancy in touchback percentage is really, really pretty great. I have it right here. Matt Haack over the last few years, his touchback percentage under 2.9%. Bojorquez is 11.6. I mean, so you do get a lot better control, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I think the Bills got better at punter. And I also take into full account that the best thing about Matt Hack is his ability to pin teams deep. And Sean McDermott was aggressive last year in situations where you would typically punt the football. So I don't know. I think the Bills, with the style of football that they play, the type of offense that they have, the real benefit was having a guy that can boom the ball down the field.
Yeah, this feels like a body move to me. In other words, they knew that Boho was going to get paid after having a great season. He didn't punt that much, obviously, but the punts he had, it was by far his best season as a Buffalo Bill. And, you know, how far we've come from last offseason when we're all talking about, oh my God, how is he still on the roster, to, wow, he had a great year, he's going to be a Bill again. And because of the cap situation, I think they were just like, look, we can't afford to give even $1.5 million or whatever it might have been to Boho. So we're moving on and we're finding the next available body who is a consistent guy. It reminds me of last offseason when they brought in a couple of punters to compete with Boho, and he just kept knocking them off and getting them cut off the roster. And finally, opening day, we're all like, oh, I guess we're stuck with this guy. So it worked out then, and I think this will work out too. I think it is a matter of the consistency in terms of, you know, Boho's biggest thing was you never know when he's going to shank one for 20 yards and not be in good field position anymore. So, you know, as long as the guy can commit to being an average punter, I think the Bills will be fine. And hopefully we won't be in a lot of those situations where we need a Boho to kick it 70 yards and this guy can kick it just as far from, you know, the 40. So
yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, what the trade-off is here, really. I mean, I don't ever want to get too excited about a punter, to be quite honest. I mean, I just like Joe down there, I wanted the Bills. Hold on. I wanted the Bills to draft Braden Mann as well. You know, I was on that trade as well, and we didn't do that. I mean, we've been screaming for punter for 2 years, but it just so happens that Corey Bojorquez had his best year of his entire life, and now he's going to be punting for somewhere else. And so Matt Hack, Hawk. Okay, I don't butcher many names, but I just butchered that one. I always get on Joe for butchering names. But yeah, I just butchered that. So until he can pin somebody at the 2, he's Hack. Matt Hack for me. But okay, so Lee Smith. Lee Smith was traded a few hours ago for a 22nd late round pick. Do we know what that pick is? Ant, do you know? Ant is he's a breaking news guy tonight. Okay.
Keeping an eye on the Twitter for us.
Yeah, literally just scrolling and typing. And no, I don't think the details have been released for what specific pick we're going to get for Lee Smith. But I mean, I think this is another. He did it with Bean, did it with Bodine. He did it with Marshall Newhouse. It's cool to see him just get any semblance of value for a guy that, not that it was guaranteed that we were going to have to release Lee Smith, but the writing was decently on the wall for the fact that we were going to have to release him and get that roughly $2.25 million back on the books so we could use it for something else. So the fact that he was still able to get something for him is awesome. And the bigger thing, we free up some money, although it is a small amount, but every dollar counts in the nuclear winner of this offseason. And the fact that he was also able to get any pick for it, I don't care if it's a 7th in 2030. The fact that he got anything for a guy who we were probably going to have to get rid of anyway for cap space is another feather in his cap.
Yeah, I could see that. You know, the thing is, like, Lee Smith is a good locker room guy. I think there is value there. You know, he's at the later stage of his career. But looking at it from the Bills roster, now it's kind of a weak tight end room. I mean, say what you want about Lee Smith, but he does bring some value to this team as a blocker, a leader, and I think there's a hole there now, and that needs to be filled by somebody.
Yeah, and we don't know what the Bills have in mind. I know Joe down there is excited about the prospects of Dawson Knox and his potential. And there's rumors. I mean, you see it all over Twitter.
You invite me on this podcast to throw tomatoes over me, over my Knox takes. What's going on here?
I like Knox. We all like Knox.
We all like Knox. We love Knox. I just want more, Joe. You know, you know how I am. I just need a little bit more. I was a big fan of him coming out, even though he had little production, but he had all the traits, and he still does. But you know, you brought something light earlier this week of that, you know, and it's something that I didn't even think about. I guess I was just kind of caught in like, what can you do for me now? But it takes time to develop a tight end correctly. And a lot of times, you know, in these positions that, you know, teams don't really wait for players to mature and to reach their full potential. All right, so thoughts on that, Joe? You want to defend yourself? Or are you good? I mean, you've done it enough. Okay.
I feel like I've exhausted every talking point I could possibly deliver about Dawson Knox at this point. It just comes back to, I think he's really gifted, physically gifted. I mean, he's an elite athlete for his size, and he has great size. And his traits are just worth being patient. And tight ends, they take time to develop and reach their ceiling in the NFL. And we all know that Dawson Knox was a yeah, okay, great. It might happen. It might happen. But, we can talk about Ertz in a minute. But
12 personnel much?
Well,
that's the argument.
In the head here. But Dawson Knox, right? I mean, high school quarterback. He goes to college at Ole Miss. He catches 39 passes, 1,100 snaps of tight end in his life going into the NFL, where he becomes a day one starter at tight end. And I just have my concerns about giving up on a guy with his ceiling. And if you look at the production that he's had through 2 years, it's far greater than what Jonnu Smith had through his first 2 years of his career. Yeah. And so I just think he's worth waiting on. Look at a guy like Logan Thomas with the Washington football team. I mean, a college quarterback comes to the NFL. I mean, he's been working on this tight end thing for a long time, guys. Just now had that breakout season. And I'm not saying that the Bills should wait like 6 more years or something like that to get something out of Dawson Knox. But I do feel like it was a situation where I'm comfortable enough with what I've seen from Knox, the potential that he has, keeping in mind the slow developing nature of tight ends, and not investing very limited amount of resources into a guy like Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry, who the New England Patriots just gave them the most guaranteed money ever in the history of the NFL for a tight end, number 1 and 2. Those aren't the best tight ends in the NFL. No, they're not even close. They're not Kittle. They're not Kelsey. They're not Waller. I would say Hunter Henry's a tier 2 tight end, and Jonnu Smith's a tier 3 tight end. They're good players, but they're paying them like they're the best players at their position. So miss me with the Bills investing that money on tight ends when I have a guy like Dawson Knox that I think is worthy of seeing what he has in year 3.
So for the just for the record here, for the round table we got going on, the Bills, it's a lot of Twitter chatter about Zach Ertz maybe coming to the Bills. So, and I'm going to ask all you guys this, if you guys want to jump in on this. Sure. How do you, hold on, you over there.
Oh, go ahead. Well, I assumed you were going to ask that.
What's his fit? How does he fit
ready
in this offense? He's ready to go. Go ahead, Anthony. Get me with it, baby.
I mean, I was just going to say what I already talked about this last night on our news show, where we talked about the potential for tight ends. I have a couple of biases. One is that I love Brevin Jordan. He's my draft crush right now. So I want him. I want them to do whatever it takes to get him. And so trading for a guy like Zach Ertz kind of fills you up at the tight end position. Probably not a priority in the draft where Brevin Jordan would be. But the other side of it is I don't want to trade value picks, whatever it is, a 4th rounder, 5th rounder, to pay Zach Ertz $8 million plus. I just don't think he's worth it at that value, especially if the Eagles are going to cut him anyway. Great. Bring him in for 5-6, maybe, let's make a deal, whatever you think he's worth. I think he's a pass catcher, but I'm not in love with it. And I've been on the record saying that all offseason, and on the tight end episode that I did for our Making a Case series, I said the same thing. I'm not in love with the idea of trading for Zach Ertz or David Njoku. So I just don't know. We'll see what happens. If he comes, we can hope to get the most out of him, but right now, I'm just hoping wait until he's cut and then make a better deal.
All right, Joe, what you got, man? His fit in the offense.
So I like the idea of bringing in Zach Ertz. I really do. And I saw somebody in the comments there talking about how he could be a real asset for the development of Dawson Knox. And I absolutely agree with that. Think about Dallas Goedert and how he came along with the Eagles alongside of Zach Ertz. And we obviously know that Brandon Beane's been interested in bringing in a Greg Olsen. Last offseason, reportedly, they offered a deal to Rob Gronkowski. So you could tell they want this veteran tight end in the room. And I go back to a comment that Sean McDermott made at the Combine a couple years ago, and he was asked about the value of a tight end for a young quarterback. And he said, yeah, when we were with the Panthers and it was 3rd down, I was never nervous because we had Greg Olsen. I knew he was going to get open, catch the football, and we were going to get a 1st down. And I think some of the inconsistency that comes with Dawson Knox makes you think, well, yeah, it'd be nice to have a real security blanket for Josh Allen. And so while I'm in on Dawson Knox, I'm not trying to hide and dismiss the inconsistencies that are there. I'm just really into the high-level stuff that he does. And so you bring in Zach Ertz, and I think what he can do is be that traditional wide tight end, the guy that plays hand in the dirt, inline tight end. And if anything, that frees up more 12 personnel opportunities where you can put Dawson Knox, whether that's out in the slot or in the backfield and get him going as your true F tight end. So you have your Y in Zach Ertz, you have your F in Dawson Knox. And I think you can do some really creative stuff there and give Josh Allen 2 big body targets to help keep the offense on schedule. And obviously Dawson Knox is dynamic as an athlete, and he can create after the catch and those types of things. And that's not really Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz, 6'5", 250 pounds. He's really savvy about finding space, settling down, catching the football, and getting tackled. He's not a guy that's going to do those high-level Dawson Knox things where he's breaking pursuit angles with the football in his hands, or he's really going up and getting the football in contested situations down the field. They're really different players, and I like that about them because I like complementary skill sets, so that way I can do more with my offense. So I like the idea of what Ertz can mean for the Bills, but if you think that Zach Ertz is going to come in and be Kelsey or Kittle, I mean, he's not that type of player. Right. He's not that type of athlete. So you give me 12 personnel sets, you have Zach Ertz doing the inline stuff, you free up Dawson Knox to be more of an athlete in space, and I think you can do some good stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I would be totally fine with Zach Ertz coming to the Bills if that's the case. I do like what he brings to the table. I mean, look, I like the fact that Dawson Knox is your explosive option, and I think Josh Allen, and let's be real, Dawson Knox, if it comes to anything as far as the hard catch, Dawson Knox got you all day. But if you throw it to Dawson Knox on a drag or something easy, he's dropping that shit. And so I do like the idea of having maybe a sure thing, especially for third down situations. I mean, we saw, once teams were kind of man-to-man, they took away Beasley, and they're going to give Diggs whatever. We kind of really didn't have an option. So I think, the more weapons you can add to this offense, the better. So we're going to see. But my guy Greg comes in. He says the rumor is that he is negotiating an extension that reduces his 2021 cap and salary overall. The day 3 pick is basically the cost for exclusive negotiating rights. Greg, are you talking about Ertz there, or is there something that we don't know about? Is that what we're talking about? Okay.
That's about Ertz.
And then just came in, Emmanuel Sanders got a 1-year, $6 million deal with a $500 signing bonus. Eric, we'll start with you. What's Emmanuel Sanders' fit in this offense?
I think it's a good fit. And we know Emmanuel Sanders from living in Denver. He's a stand-up guy. He's a leader. He's had so much experience in his career. He's going into his 11th year as a pro. There's just so much that he can do for you as far as knowledge, playing with the greats like Big Ben, like Peyton Manning. And another thing I thought of earlier, he'll be the first player on this team with a Super Bowl ring. So that matters, right? If you bring in Zach Ertz, that's the second one.
Wow.
I mean, 6 out of 10 seasons for Emmanuel Sanders have been playoff seasons. And that experience is what Brandon Beane is looking for. I think this team kind of looked a little inexperienced in the championship game, right? And you look around this roster, the majority of players are young, right? So I think you bring in some experienced players like Emmanuel Sanders, and it's a perfect fit from that sense as a locker room player. On the field, I'll leave that stuff to you guys.
All right, anybody want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I liked it a lot. I think, and if we're looking at him at the wide receiver too, as a quote unquote kind of replacement for John Brown, I don't think he has the same long speed that John Brown has. He's not that smoke type player anymore, especially as he's about to turn 34 tomorrow, which we established after looking that up on the internet before we went live. But he's still a phenomenal route runner. He's got tremendous hands. He's tough. He's got a great knowledge and sense of awareness and understanding. He finds openings. He can still get downfield a bit. We saw him get behind the Chiefs in the game with the Saints, and that was with Drew Brees trying to throw I forgot who tweeted it, but someone showed the bomb to Sanders from Brees and was like, Brees put his entire soul into this throw to try and get this down there. Sanders can still get downfield, but he's a great route runner, and I'm looking at pairing him with obviously Cole Beasley and Stephon Diggs. And if you're running those 3 wide receiver sets, which the Bills have a propensity to do, is there a better pure route running wide receiver grouping in the AFC, maybe even in the NFL? Like, that route running is just so crisp and such a beautiful thing. add in the veteran leadership and the mentality and the drive and the work ethic that he has. I like it. I don't think it's a like for like in terms of replacing John Brown, but I think it's a good move for the Bills. And it's somebody that Bean has wanted. This is his, third time trying to acquire him. And, oh, that's super funny. Trying to acquire Emmanuel Sanders. And it's a good deal too. 1 year, $6 million, $500,000 in incentives. Bills can still free up cap space with a multitude of other moves through restructures for guys that are going to be here for the long haul. And I think it's a good deal. And he fits on the field. Locker room, I'm not worried about. And on the field, I think it's a really good fit.
Yeah, I love this move mainly because I live in Denver and I've seen Emmanuel Sanders play a lot. And I remember the first game I went to when he was on the Broncos. And, it was when Peyton Manning was playing with him. And I just said, wow, I mean, Peyton Manning is the greatest of all time at the position to me and throwing the football. And Emmanuel Sanders was just able to get open and work with his quarterback. You could tell that those two in sync were just amazing. The route running, the ability, the yards after catch, that's something that excites me about him because, the Bills were somewhat limited on that this year. Granted, we're picking at stones here against an amazing 5,000-yard offense. But still, I mean, I love what he adds. I think he's the right kind of guy to bring in. And I've always wanted him to be a Buffalo Bill since I saw him play here. I'm like, oh, maybe he'll go to the Bills next. Then he went to New Orleans. Yeah. I'm like, oh, maybe they'll pick him up here. So I'm excited to see what he can do with Josh Allen throwing him the ball. If those two get on the same page, the way that Diggs and Allen got on the same page, and they'll have time, hopefully, in the preseason to actually practice and get used to each other. I think, the deadly route running ability, the yards after catch, Josh Allen's going to have somebody to throw to on every play.
For sure. I love the move just because Emmanuel Sanders could play in the slot. We saw Cole Beasley go down with an injury. I mean, these guys are getting up in age, and I love the fact that you can throw a guy like Emmanuel Sanders. He could play the boundary. He could play inside. So I think it's great. It's a solid move. I mean, is he better than John Brown? I mean, he's probably the older version of John Brown, obviously, but I'll take it. I mean, 1 year, $6 million. I mean, we can't really get too mad about that. So, what it does do for us, though, it kind of changes our focus tonight. And we'll wait for to see if any breaking news comes through. But what I want to get a kind of grasp on is more like the AFC East outlook. We saw the Patriots make some major moves yesterday and today. Okay. And, it's got a lot of Bills fans out there a little shaking in their boots. Everybody's kind of going crazy over the New England Patriots. Even in the national media, they're asking if they're going to take over the AFC East. And I'm like, hell no. Like, they're not ready for that. But they are going to be tougher, So what are you guys' thoughts on the AFC East and what the New England Patriots have done thus far? Joe, we'll start with you, and then Prohaska, you next, bud.
I'll be concerned with the Patriots or the Dolphins when they get a quarterback. If Deshaun Watson, if they get Deshaun Watson, or if the Patriots were able to, I don't know move way up the draft. I don't care if they get a rookie quarterback. That doesn't move the needle to me. But when you still have Cam Newton, you have Tua, Sam Darnold. I mean, I'll get nervous when that changes. And let's face it. I mean, the Patriots have the second most cap space in the NFL. Going into free agency. They had a crap roster. I said it a million times. They had 3 difference makers, 2 guards and Stephon Gilmore at cornerback. This roster was poor. They had to go and spend a bunch of money. Yep. And here's the deal. Like, you have this Belichick and Brady conflict that is very, very real. And you have Tom Brady, who's in Tampa Bay winning Super Bowls. And you have Bill Belichick over in New England. And his legacy's on the line here. So he can do a couple of different things here. He can win enough games to take down Don Shula as the all-time, regular season wins, which he's in striking distance to do. He can't go 4-12 or, win 5 or 6 games. He's going to have to win 9 or 10 games every single year. But the reality is that the New England Patriots, under Bill Belichick, with these dynamics going on, they weren't able to undergo a responsible rebuild, right? They're throwing money at everybody that they can get and paying a tax, right? They're paying like a premium for these players. The list of players they brought in, they're good football players. They're just bad values. Mm-hmm. And the Patriots, what they needed to do to set themselves up again for long-term success was to go out and actually rebuild the football team, tear it down to build it back up. And I think that they are just trying to pick up the pieces and see where it can go. And guys, we saw that for a long time. We saw that happen with the Dolphins for years. It happened in Buffalo for years. The Jets, you keep trying to put Band-Aids over things and hype things up and go after free agents and do all this stuff. But at the end of the day, you have to go through a real rebuild to actually have sustained success. So this screams to me, Belichick can't get outclassed by Brady here in the twilight of their careers. And if he's going to do something to cement his legacy, he needs to go get that all-times wins record as the head coach in the NFL.
Yeah, and there are a couple other teams that we didn't even mention. The Eagles, their last year they had Shady. Last 2 years they were trying to build the what they call themselves, the dream team. Throw those guys in there. And the Broncos still haven't taken their medicine yet. They're still dicking around with the quarterback position. And so yeah, I mean there's definitely something to building it the right way. I always felt like this. Head coaches should not be GMs. I think you should. I think you should stay in your lane. And great, Bill Belichick had probably the greatest quarterback of our lifetime that we've seen, and that's debatable, whatever. So it allowed him to do a lot of things. I mean, but before Brady, Belichick was just a good defensive coordinator. You know what I'm saying? And he's a great coach in his own right. But man, take your medicine, build it the right way, and like when you bring guys in, Kendrick Bourne, he's okay, right? He's okay. But I mean, Jonnu Smith, we all wanted. Well, I was a Jonnu Smith fan. I would have taken him, but at the same time, it's like you drafted 2 third-round tight ends last year, and now you're going to get 2 more. It just, it doesn't make sense. The way they're doing this doesn't make sense, and I don't think that they're going to have. I don't think they're going to compete with the Bills in terms of a division crown. I mean, like you said, Joe, Cam Newton's a quarterback.
At the same time, I mean, they won 7 football games last year, right? They're not like a total joke or a pushover. They've gotten better. We should acknowledge that the Patriots are a much better football team right now than they were at the end of last year. But as far as taking down a Bills team that went 6-0 in the division, 13-3 in the AFC Championship game, to think that they're on the heels of the Bills with what they were able to do with Cam Newton at quarterback, this version of Cam Newton, I can't buy into that. I don't think it's close.
You're gonna have to show me something, but else around the league or around the AFC East, Jacoby Brissett is he QB1 for the Dolphins? What are we doing,
man?
What are we doing?
Can we talk about a move that does concern me at quarterback today?
Go ahead,
and I'll tell you why. Tyrod Taylor going to the Texans, because what does that mean? Oh crap! And they gave him up to $12 million in his contract. Yeah. He's the starter there. That means now they know they have to trade. And now where's he going to go? Tell me where he's going to go. I mean, it's the two biggest teams that can trade for him are the Jets and the Dolphins. So that move made me more nervous than any move today, because I was like, oh crap, they're going to trade Watson to the Jets or to the Dolphins, and we're screwed. I mean, it hurts more than anything the Dolphins have done or anything the Patriots have done. But I mean, I still would favor the Bills in the division. But that move, obviously, Deshaun Watson going to one of those teams immediately puts them in the conversation of competing with the Bills versus anything the Patriots have done to this point.
You don't go out and sign Tyrod Taylor to that deal if you're sure Deshaun Watson's going to be your quarterback. And the reality is, I mean, guys, the Jets and Dolphins, they have the most to give Houston right now. They can get the 2 pick or the 3 pick. I don't think the Jets are in play like Miami is. Miami's definitely in on Deshaun Watson. And, when you think about them bringing in Tyrod, and obviously I think they're internally getting themselves ready to be without Deshaun Watson, that also signals to me that they're not that interested in Tua Tagovailoa, right? Like if they were going to get him back in a deal from Miami, they wouldn't have. Well, maybe they would want Tyrod to go with him to kind of mentor and bring him along. Yeah. But to me, that maybe pushes me more inclined to believe in Carolina as a contender for this, because Carolina's not going to be able to send them a meaningful quarterback back. I'm not sure that they're going to want to take on Teddy Bridgewater. But that's where we should be really hoping as Bills fans. You should hope that Dave Tepper goes out of his mind to go get Deshaun Watson. And he's going to have to go out of his mind, because right now Miami can give them 3, 18, 34, 50 in addition to stuff in 2022. Carolina has 8. You know what I mean? Like, it's not close. So yeah, I think the AFC East gets real weird if you tell me that Miami gets Deshaun Watson.
That's going to be scary. I ain't gonna lie. The Bills ain't going 6-0 in that division. That's for sure. You'll be lucky. I mean, New England can sneak one on you. That's 3-3. I mean, you hope for it to break 500 on that, and that would. Whew, I'd be terrified of that. Not gonna lie. I mean, I do like what the Dolphins have done with their front office. Brian Flores is a great coach, man. He's come in and he's really turned things around. So, I mean, you give him the proper tools. I mean, the sky's the limit with all that capital, but you got to hit on these draft picks. And if you're giving up that for Deshaun Watson, well, then you have a franchise quarterback, and you're just going to have to wait it out until you have more capital to make moves. So it's going to be a definitely interesting. So do you guys, if you had to put money on it right now, who is Deshaun Watson getting traded to? Who's he getting traded to? We heard today Russell Wilson's not getting traded. The Bears, bless their soul, they swung and a miss. Okay, they ain't getting nothing. Who they get? Andy Dalton today? That the Red Rifle? Yeah. That's what they got. That's not going to cut it, even for your fans. So we, as a Bills fans, we all know that all too well about missing on a quarterback, just not having a great quarterback. So the Bears have really never had a great quarterback. I can't remember the last great quarterback the Bears even had.
Rex Grossman, Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Jay Cutler.
Yeah.
Jay Cutler.
Cutler was good.
It was good, especially in Chicago.
I thought Cutler got a bad rap for a lot of – I know he's not like a likable guy, and then there was the whole drama when he got hurt in the first quarter of the NFC Championship game against the Packers, and there was all he could have gone in, but he didn't want to go in. But – man, that arm, and there was a time, especially in Chicago, him and Brandon Marshall were
dope.
Lethal. And that was after they traded his number one target, who was Greg Olsen, when he was in Chicago. And the Bears were like, oh, what's that? You like this guy? Cool. We're going to send him to another team.
So where does Watson end up? If you had to put money at today, we'll go around and all of you guys answer. Where does Deshaun Watson end up?
Where are you starting?
And we'll start with you, and we'll go on up. Aunt Joe, Anthony, Eric.
I really think Miami, just because of the pure draft capital and package they can send back his way. The only thing that sticks in my head is how much Houston would want to not keep him in the AFC. And if that's the case, I think Carolina. So I think they're close. Mainly, and thinking with Carolina too, just having that top 10 pick, I think it gives them a better opportunity to get one of the top quarterbacks in this draft, especially if they like a particular one that isn't Trevor Lawrence, and hoping someone falls to them there at that spot. But Miami, what they can give is just more than anyone else almost. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Yeah, Cutler, man. Yeah, Miami can give really to me, it gives the best package. But if Houston doesn't want to keep them, or doesn't want to keep Watson in the AFC, which would make sense. You don't want to see that guy there, ship him out to the other conference. I think Carolina makes the most sense with an outside chance at the San Francisco 49ers, but I really think it's Carolina or Miami there.
Joe?
Miami. They got what it takes to get him. Obviously, they keep doing trades, Houston to Miami. Obviously, the Tunsil deal.
That's a good point.
And then didn't they just do Shaq Lawson for Bernard McKinney? Right. They got each other's phone number, So I think there's a good chance that it's Miami, and let's hope that doesn't happen.
Anthony,
I am going to hold out hope that what Anthony said about not wanting to trade him in the AFC, and I'll hold out hope that they're hooked to Tua and they're like, you know what, we can't screw this one up. We're hooked to this guy. Even though we've already seen they traded away Shaq Lawson, they cut Kyle Van Noy. So all these moves they made last year that they invested in, they weren't afraid to cut bait pretty quickly with those. So that makes me a little more nervous. But I'm going to hold out hope for that and say maybe Carolina, or who knows, San Francisco could get in. But the Tyrod signing kind of, again, skews away from that. So I don't know. I hope it's not the Jets or Miami. So gambling-wise, I don't know. But I'll say Carolina.
Yeah, and I'll go, Miami as well, but just to be different, Houston's in the driver's seat here, and they can really do whatever they want. It's really, to me, it comes down to who do they like in the draft. Are they willing to take 2 first-rounders or 3 first-rounders from the Jets to get, Zach Wilson or somebody like that at number 2? I think that plays a part, and nobody really mentioned that yet. But it's really up to Houston, and if you're in Houston's seat, I mean, I wouldn't say no to the number 2 pick.
No, I wouldn't either. I mean, trade the man. If he doesn't want to play for you, you got to trade him, man. Just quit the BS. Like you screwed up. Go ahead.
I got a question. If Miami gets Deshaun Watson, and this can be for everyone, or unless some people don't want to answer this question, feel free. If Miami gets Deshaun Watson, where does that put them? Not even just the AFC East. Where does that put them in the grand scheme landscape of the AFC as a conference? Are they a surefire top 5 team? Are they a fringe playoff team? What do we think if Miami lands Deshaun Watson?
Well, they were already a fringe playoff team without Deshaun Watson. Mm-hmm. So I would have to say they're a top 5 team with Brian Flores in his defense. Only thing you have to do, I mean, you already got Parker. I mean, what add a couple more weapons and you're great. I mean, it's Deshaun Watson is a game breaker. He's a game breaker. So I would say you have to be top 5.
For sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think I'd put him now above the Tennessee, like where the Titans were the past couple of years, almost right in there. So they're definitely competing with the Bills to win the division. The Bills are more established, have that more continuity and everything. I think the Bills are still the favorite in the division, so that knocks Miami down a peg because they're probably not going to win the division outright, at least not be the favorite going into the season, even if they get Deshaun. But they're up there. They're top 5 for sure in the AFC. I mean. It has to be for me, Kansas City, Buffalo, Miami's the next team in that conversation. So
that was my next question too. Are they ahead of is it a firm ahead of being Baltimore and Tennessee? Are they ahead of both those teams?
Right now, if they got Deshaun, yeah.
Green Bay is ahead of them, I would say, just because they've won 13 games the last 2 years. I mean, they're losing their center. That's going to have a huge impact, but there's still a good team in the NFL is the Packers. I'd put Miami top 5 in the NFL, but
oh wow, okay.
I'd say behind the Packers, the Saints with Breeze out. I mean, I think they can take that spot. There's not many teams that would be better with Miami with Deshaun Watson, at quarterback.
Joe, go ahead and hit it, and then we got Super Chat.
I think you guys are all sleeping on Cleveland. I think Cleveland's one of the better 4 teams in the AFC. I think Kansas City, Buffalo, Cleveland, Miami. Tennessee, too many question marks on that team right now. I mean, they're blowing up their defense. They don't have a right tackle. They don't have any receivers. I mean, my God, it's literally just A.J. Brown. So to me, they've really stepped down a bit. And Baltimore, Baltimore's got to figure out what's going on with Orlando Brown. And if they don't get that figured out, they need a right tackle. Yeah. They still need another receiver. And they lost both their top pass rushers in Ngakoue and Judon. So, they've got some pretty big needs. So I would say that Miami slots right there at number 4 behind Kansas City, Buffalo, Cleveland, and then Miami.
Okay.
What a weird top 4, huh?
I know,
right?
Who would have thought? Very strange. So we got a super chat here from Jeffrey Kelly. Thank you for supporting Cover One and what we got going on here. The question is, what would Ertz do for Knox development? He hasn't had a solid guy in front of him to teach him since he's been playing tight end in his career. So we kind of hit on this a little earlier. So Joe, I'm gonna let you swing at that one, man. Go ahead and knock that out the park because you're the expert.
Well, I think what you would want to point to, I think we do this a lot. We say, okay, veteran player is going to be great for some younger player. That's not always the case, right? But I think in the case of Zach Ertz, I can point to the Philadelphia Eagles bringing in Dallas Goedert as a second-round pick, and you can't help but not think that Zach Ertz was an asset to Goedert in his development, right? And so I would point to that and take comfort in thinking that it would be beneficial for Zach or for Dawson Knox to have Zach Ertz in the building. And everything you read about Zach Ertz and you see his press conferences and kind of that last press conference that he had in Philadelphia, getting very emotional. You could tell that he's a guy that would really fit into the culture dynamics that are in place in Buffalo. So I think from that perspective, it is a major benefit in addition to maybe finding some consistency as an inline blocker and then reliability as a safety valve. Again, I don't think he's that dynamic seam busting tight end that's going to, moss people at the catch point and create after the catch. But I think there are some real benefits that he brings to the team.
All right. Appreciate that. We got another one. Another super chat here from Dylan's Hobbies. He says, do you think Sanders could be used to fill holes created by a possible Zach Ertz trade? Prohauska,
Does he mean like holes on the field or holes on the roster? What?
Dylan, if
you're a little confused, yeah,
Dylan, if you want to specify on your question in the chat here, that will be awesome. Because we're all kind of wondering what holes are you talking about?
Yeah, if it's like roster or if on the roster.
Okay, okay.
Do you think Sanders could be used to fill holes on the roster created by a possible Zach Ertz trade? I don't know if there would be, if they're going to trade for Ertz, I see it more of being pick based than it is roster based. I don't think there's necessarily going to be a hole in terms of the roster. It's not like they're going to, especially from what Sanders can fill. I don't think it's going to be like Gabriel Davis or Isaiah Hodgins or Cole Beasley for Zach Ertz. I think it's going to be more of a day 3, 4, 5 pick, maybe 6 or a little higher, depending on what that contract situation that Greg was mentioning. Because I think that's the bigger conversation with me when it comes to Ertz and now having Emmanuel Sanders, because the original thought, and Greg and I spoke about this when we did that salary cap episode way back when, and Greg initially professed his love for Jonnu Smith. The thought of cutting John Brown and then using his money to then get a tight end like a Jonnu Smith. Like there you have targets available, you have a role in the offense, understood, got it. Now that we're giving Sanders that $6 million, that's a decent chunk of change. I think it's still a really good deal, but that's a decent chunk of change. Sanders steps into that John Brown role, and you could make a case that he's a better wide receiver than John Brown, but at the very least, there's minimal, if at all, drop off at worst. He's going to get those targets. Now adding Zach Ertz, again, we've seen the propensity for the Bills to run 11 and 10 personnel. How much 12 do they really want to run? It goes back to the conversation that we were having on last night's episode of Disguise Coverage when Greg mentioned, is the Bills' lack of 12 personnel by design, or is it because they haven't had the horses that can run that? And if we add Zach Ertz, my question starts to be, okay, we're running Stephon Diggs, Emmanuel Sanders, Cole Beasley, Zach Ertz, Dawson Knox, Gabriel Davis. Like, I like that. I'm happy having 6 solid targets, but then what are we doing in terms of our personnel grouping? Who's seeing targets? What are we running? What are we doing? And then the cost as well is a big one for me when it comes with Ertz. If we're restructuring his contract, if there's an extension in the works, and then here's the last part, I realize it's a bit long-winded. Here's that part, because if we are adding on to Ertz's deal to lessen that cap hit, that means he's going to be here longer than 1 year, which effectively means they don't see Dawson Knox as the guy. They think Zach Ertz is going to be the guy. There's so many storylines and layers to this thing. If we were to get Ertz, my main thing is the money and the cost, in addition to what role it is and what it does for the offense, because it raises a lot of questions in a good way, but it creates questions.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Just for a quick second, you put up the Joe Millet. Joe, I thought of you today. Rest in peace, the boho jersey. I guess that was it was what 6-1, 6-1 or something, or 8-1. Man, I thought of you instantly. Like, oh, I guess there it goes. He's going to have to buy the next punter jersey now.
Put it on the wall. Hang it on the wall.
We have another super chat, but we're let's kind of shift the conversation to the draft. And where we're going anyways. But Jeffrey says, could you see us drafting a coverage safety and having Micah or Jordan drop down to be the nickel in those packages, possibly like a Andre Cisco? I can definitely see us drafting a safety at somewhere in the draft. Maybe not early, but I love the idea of Hamza, but I don't see the Bills dropping Micah and Jordan down to impossible package like they do Andre Cisco. I think they stay where they are, but I would love to see a guy versatile that can cover tight ends and play in the box for sure. Joe, anybody, you guys got thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have thoughts on Andre Cisco, and I know that I recognize that I can say this, and this would be a really bad soundbite if the Bills wind up drafting Andre Cisco. But I don't see McDermott being in on Cisco. Cisco's a fun football player. He's got good size. I think he's got good athleticism. I think he's physical, and he's got unbelievable ball skills. But Sean McDermott, what does he preach about defense? 111th. Be your 111th. Yep. Andre Cisco is a damn freelancer. If you watch this guy on tape, I mean, he plays this rat in the hole type middle of the field defender role, and he's just everywhere. Right. And not in a good way. Like the reason he had so many interceptions is because he chases them, and he's not a very disciplined, like sound, like assignment-driven type player. And for those reasons, I just don't know that he's a great fit in terms of what I believe McDermott would be looking for. Again, watch him turn in the card for Cisco, and everybody brings this soundbite up, and I look like an idiot. But based on my process is good, right? I don't care about being wrong. I'm wrong a lot, but if my process is good and it's defendable, then I'm okay with that. And I think when I consider that I could look stupid here, I do think that my process and reasoning was good.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's a stupid take by any means. I mean, Andre Cisco kind of reminds me of Jairus Byrd. Jairus Byrd was much more a freelancer in the Bills back end. So, he kind of got a lot of tip balls, and, I mean, his instincts were great. I think Andre Cisco's instincts are great. But yeah, like you mentioned, Sean McDermott definitely wants somebody in his defense to play that 111th. And that's what you're going to have to do. And it kind of reminds, and I love Hamza Nasir-Ladin. That's my guy. Okay. And that Florida State defense, their coaching was terrible for the past few years. Terrible. But they got some studs on that defense, man. And I think people aren't giving them enough credit. I think Hamza is going to blow it up. Hamza is he's a talent, man. Can we get somebody on the Bills back end with some size and some speed? I'm thirsting for that. Can we get that?
Honestly, that was going to be one of the discussions I was going to bring up with Joe Marino here talking the draft. There's a lot of talk around cornerback, but I think bringing a guy like Hamza Nasir-Ladin, who can be the guy to help you with the coverage of guys like Travis Kelce, which has been a weakness of the Bills over the past few years. Somebody like him who's that dynamic and can fit there, what role, whatever position you want to call him, safety, linebacker, cornerback, whatever. If he can cover somebody like, Zach Ertz, or not Zach Ertz, Travis Kelce and Darren Waller and those guys who've been lighting it up against the Bills over the past few years, to help out our two linebackers who are our studs, that would be nice.
Hey, so Joe,
it's Hamza is the way you pronunciate it.
Hamza.
Is that even a word? Pronounce. That was terrible. I told you how to pronounce Hamza while incorrectly pronouncing. Jeez.
There's your soundbite right there.
Delete that. Can you edit that out? I know this is live.
It's pronunciated Hamza. All right.
Pronunciated Hamza. It's Hamza. Jeez.
That's hilarious though. I'm from the South and I could say this, but that's a total slave name. When you coming up in here talking about some Hamza.
Not touching.
I can say it. Y'all can just have to deal with it. But hey, Joe Marino says Boho Mojo no more. I guess he's burning the jersey, y'all. He's burning it, or he's going to convert it into something else. So all right. So if we're talking about Bills needs moving forward, we're talking draft focus here. What do you guys think the Bills and Brandon Beane's focus is now moving towards the draft? So let's just say the Bills do get Zach Ertz for a 4th or 5th round pick. Let's say that's his value. Where in the first 3 rounds, where do we see where is Brandon Beane's focus moving toward? Anthony, we'll start with you on that one.
Well, I've said this a couple times already, but I'll say it again. I was hell-bent that, thinking that we were not going to re-sign Milano, who's one of my favorite Bills, and I'm glad he's back. But I told everybody who thought, we're going to draft here, we're going to draft here. I'm like, if we lose Matt Milano, I don't care what anybody says, we're drafting a linebacker in the first round. It's happening, whether you like it or not. Linebackers are the core of Sean McDermott's defense. He will draft a linebacker if he loses Matt Milano. And the guy I was set on was Zaven Collins. He was the one I wanted. If he was there, I thought he was the best fit for the Bills. I was just like, man, I like this guy. He's the one that I'm going to hitch my wagon to. And then, of course, what do? They re-sign Matt Milano. So that really opens things up in that first round. And now I don't necessarily have a specific position or guy I'm targeting in round 1. It's more of I'm so pumped to see how the draft goes from pick 5 to 29 now, because somebody is going to fall in the Bills' lap. That might be a cornerback position if somebody who's really high all of a sudden starts to fall. That might be a pass rusher, although I'm a little less, that's, if anything, I want to steer away from pass rush that early. It could be, I don't know, cornerback, safety, whoever's on the board. Guard, I think, is a big one for the Bills. Even a tackle at that point if one of the top tackles falls, because these are guys who fit what the Bills need in terms of depth. It's all going to depend on that first round. And it just gets me excited to think that even though we're not picking at 11, whoever gets picked 11, we're going to be thinking, oh, that's an interesting pick because now somebody else is being pushed down the board.
Yeah, I think Anthony's going best available, lifting every position there.
Yes, I mean, it is. That's what the Bills do all the time.
But everybody.
I guess
coming.
The initial question was
everybody. Yeah.
The initial question was 3 positions for the first 3 rounds. So I'd say those positions: cornerback, guard, and then depth. I want a tight end. You know that. So
yeah.
But with the understanding that they get Ertz, so the first 3 picks. Right. So that's what you got. Eric, go ahead, take it.
We talked about this a little bit yesterday on the show on Disguise coverage, but I'll just go with one position here, and I think that's cornerback 2 because I like Levi Wallace. I've been a fan of Levi Wallace the past few years, and Sean McDermott has proven that you don't need a top corner at that second cornerback position. They've been top 3 in the past, in pass defense without it necessarily. They've been splitting a veteran with Levi Wallace, but we don't know what it would be like if they did take a first-round talent at corner, if somebody was to fall and fill that position. I mean, that would be one of the better secondaries in the league if you could actually hit on a draft pick at 30, and it'd be an elite secondary, even better than what we've seen. So that's got me intrigued, and we just haven't seen that yet with this regime.
All right, Joe?
The questions about pick 30 and what the Bills would do. I'm reading the comments, and I'm seeing some names here. I'm like, oh, man.
No, yeah.
To me, it's cornerback. I mean, right now, if the Bills had to play a game tomorrow, everything's okay except for cornerback 2. Right now, we're talking about Dane Jackson and Cam Lewis and Saron Neal. Those are the guys right now on the roster opposite of CB2. And I don't know if Levi Wallace is going to be back. I know that he's kind of been easy to have in your back pocket and say, yeah, we'd love to upgrade it, but at least we have Levi Wallace. But right now, the Bills don't have Levi Wallace.
Right.
So
right.
At pick 30, I'm dialed into cornerbacks until something happens where I'm not. I see a lot of J.C. Horn in the comments, and Horn's a good player. I don't think he's a good fit for the Bills' defense, though. He's a press man corner that doesn't tackle. So we're talking about a zone defense where your corners have to tackle. So I don't know if I see that. I don't want to rain on any parades, but I want to steer people in the right direction.
So you're going cornerback. Bills play a game tomorrow. It's cornerback.
Well, I think we knew that coming from Joe Marino. Yeah, I was expecting that. If it was anything else, I would have been shocked. But
if they get a cornerback, if they sign Malcolm Butler or something, then I'll get off that wagon. I will, and I'll start talking about BPA. But right now, if we're talking about critical needs, there's an absolutely critical need right now at CB2.
Okay. I make the same argument. Anytime somebody drafts a cornerback to the Bills in round 1, I always say it's a great idea. I love it. But Sean McDermott and their defense, they never, ever do that. And the odds are, I'm always like, that's not going to happen because although this year might be the exception because it could be best player available. And if that guy is a cornerback, I believe that they could take him. Normally they would just sign a veteran and say, we've got Trey White, we've got our all-star and a veteran and whoever else is behind him. And we're good with that. And so I can't see them saying they would pick a cornerback in the first round, but this year it might be the exception to that. And I like some of these later round, third round cornerbacks, second round cornerbacks that I think are good fits for the Bills too. So we'll see what happens.
Let me somewhat challenge your thinking there because I very much agree with you. And I think if you look at history, and I think I did an entire podcast on this, like CB2 history under Sean McDermott, and I outlined that it's always some guy, like a random guy, usually in the twilight of their career, that he plugs into that spot, right? The dynamics this year of where that could be different is that the Bills are paying Trey White, Jordan Poyer, and Micah Hyde. They all have, they're all like handsomely paid players. And so for the first time, they haven't really, when you look at resource allocation and what's committed to the secondary right now, especially on the heels of Taron Johnson being on an expiring deal, maybe this is the time where they use one of those premium assets on a cheap but talented player because they kind of like, you can only continue to pay like 1 year, $8 million for some stopgap. They might need to buy themselves some time in terms of just where the salaries are within the roster to funnel that money into a young player that they can get good returns on the next several seasons, considering what they're paying out to Hyde, Poyer, and Tre'Davious White.
I have a question. Hey, Joe, I have a question. Like, who do you think the best zone corners are that could fall to pick 30?
That's a great question. Yeah.
Greg Newsome, cornerback from Northwestern, and what I like about him, he's super smart, but he can play man too. I have no doubts that he can turn and run and carry guys down the field. The question is, does he get there? I don't know if that happens. Patrick Surtain II, I don't think he gets to 30, but he'd be a good fit in terms of zone. And then you're kind of like stuck because 30 seems too high for a lot of the next guys that I would bring up. And what did the Bills pick? 61 or 60 or something like that. That's too low. So they're like, it's just not good value. But Ifeatu Melifonwu from Syracuse definitely comes to mind.
I like him.
I like Eric Stokes. Eric Stokes is a man cover corner because that means they'll have a guy that can do some man coverage and give themselves more options in the secondary. But, to me, it would be probably prudent to trade back. Asante Samuel's a name that I see all the time. He's not a zone corner. He's a 5'10", 180-pound, man corner that has bad ball skills. I don't know. I don't see that as a real fit. But
he's got a good name.
He does.
Yeah.
He does. But
Popular
if
name.
you're looking zone corner, Greg Newsome, he's the guy, and I don't know if he gets there.
And what you got, man?
It depends what we do in the rest of free agency. For me right now, I'm looking at corner 2, edge, and then still something in the interior offensive line. My dream scenario for round 1 is if Elijah Vera Tucker fell to us at 30, but I know, right, dude? Oh, so beautiful.
Sign me up for that.
I would take that all day. Give it to me. But I really don't think he's going to fall. And then based on what we do in the rest of free agency, again, free agency, my dream scenario of a signing that we would give me William Jackson from the Cincinnati Bengals, give me a corner with length and speed and scheme versatility to allow us to continue to match up in different ways on defense, give me further ways to disguise coverage and all of that. Give me William Jackson all day. So if something like that were to happen, if we got William Jackson, cool. I think we're going edge or interior offensive line or best player available straight at pick 30. Based on how things are going right now, if we were to acquire Zach Ertz, whatever money that he's going to get, I really don't think a bigger signing is going to come. Say we do get Zach Ertz, with the money we're going to have left from that, hypothetically, I see us maybe getting some sort of a value type pass rusher, maybe somebody that gets released, somebody who can bring in on the cheap that's more situational, that functions into that third at best, but more like fourth pass rushing option. And if that's the case, I think we're going into round 1. Yeah, looking at corner. Right after Vera Tucker, give me Greg Newsome all day. I would take that. And then even in the edge camp, if we shore up the other positions, I'm okay taking someone who's more upside, who may not make a direct impact right away. Taken in the first round, like Jason Oway from Penn State. I know not having the sack production that he had last year, I still like his measurables, but he doesn't necessarily fit the typical build and profile of what McDermott likes in his edge rushers. So that's interesting to me still. But I think we cornerback, edge, interior offensive line, some sort of combo of that happens in the first 3 picks that we do that we go with in this draft. And it all comes down to, what do we do in the rest of free agency? Who can we sign? Are we going after value guys, vets, or are we making one more splash for a mid to upper mid tier guy at edge or corner to really solidify things? I don't see a big signing coming for the offensive line again. I think if we're addressing the offensive line, especially the interior, for the rest of this offseason, it's coming in the draft. So if we can make a big splashy kind of signing for edge or corner, that'll dictate things. But for me, corner, edge, interior offensive line, somewhere in that regard.
Yeah. So I'm going to go a little bit different than you guys. Now, look, people are going to kill me for this, and I'm going to stand here and I don't care. And I know, Joe, you're going to hate this when I say
Sterling, you're going a little T-Pain on us here.
I'm sorry. I don't know. But if you can hear me, is it still doing it? Okay, so I'm definitely going to run it back round 1. And Joe, I know you hate it.
Oh, man.
I know you hate it. Listen. I think I think Brandon Beane swings to the fences, man.
He's out. Joe Marino's out. You said it.
He's out.
You broke the cardinal rule.
That's okay. And Joe Marino hates the value. He hates round one, but that's why we all have opinions. And if listen, if the Bills go out and they draft ETN, I would be happy as hell. What I think Brandon Beane's going to do, I think he's going to go get Landon Dickerson. I think he's going to somebody on the interior offensive line is what I think he's going to do
in the first round.
If it's left to me in the first round. If it's left to me, I'm going to get a running back. I'm sorry. Look, pick 30. I don't see anything wrong with it. It's not like it's a pick 10 or pick 15. You're picking at the end of round 1, and I think you have to get an impact player. No matter what you decide to do, you got to get an impact player. Us drafting a cornerback at the end of round 1, I don't think it's going to happen. I just don't. I think
but even
right. But
cardinal rule, man.
History says the Bills don't. Brandon Beane doesn't draft cornerback in round 1. He goes out and gets a veteran. I think he's going to continue to do that. I think running back is in play. Me and Marcel Louis-Jacques, okay, probably think the same way of this, but I'm going to stick to my guns here. You guys can smash me if you want to, but I'm staying here.
My worry with that is the positional value that could still be available, even if just talking edge, like Rousseau could still be there. Maybe Jalen Phillips is there. There's somebody who fills in. It's like, I don't doubt the impact that Travis Etienne would have, and I think he's phenomenal. And as a person, my favorite player in the NFL is Alvin Kamara. I'm not paying Alvin Kamara that contract, and I love Travis Etienne, but I can't take him in the first round, especially that positional value spot. That's what it is to me. Someone sweet for either corner, interior offensive line, or edge is going to fall to 30, and I can't take Etienne over them.
I think that's what I was going to say too, is I'd be happier if both running backs are gone before the Bills pick, because thank you. Somebody just came down to us that we want, right?
Quarterbacks and running backs all day in the
all
first
of those picks. Yeah, pick all the cornerbacks and all the quarterbacks and all the running backs before the Bills pick. And I absolutely love that. One scenario that we haven't talked about, well, we've talked about it in the past leading up to this show, but not today, is the trade back option from 30, getting those values at the second round pick. And Joe, one of the questions I was going to ask you is, do you have a feeling about trades this year because of the weird COVID season and all these players who maybe didn't play in 2020 who are getting drafted, and there might be value in the 4th and 5th round or the second round that is better than certain years or whatever? Do you have a sense of, are there going to be more trades, less trades? What's the feeling on that going into this draft?
I think you can see it go both ways. You're going to have teams that are probably going to see this draft as an opportunity to accelerate their ability to add young talent, where there's probably teams that are averse to that didn't get the normal exposures to players that they typically do because they're not at practice all summer long. They're not at games. They're not having the combine. There's only 2 people available to go to pro days. You're not having guys in your facility. So some teams, like maybe the Bills, are not going to be comfortable without having that typical FaceTime that you would get with players. And I think that's going to make it attractive for some teams to move back or move up, say like, hey, I'm comfortable with this player and I want to go get him. So you can see it going both ways. And I think anytime I can see things going on both sides of the spectrum, I say the truth's always in the middle, and I think it's going to be a normal year.
Just kind of But I think it's a real option for the Bills to be able to trade out
for sure.
Back into the second round. I've been saying that for a long time. Like, hey, give me 2 second-round picks, and I'd be happy because there's still more value that we're talking about, and there's a lot more guys looking into it that, instead of taking that shot on one of the guys that might be here in the first, I'd much rather have 2 of the guys I like in the second. I don't know if that's possible. You probably get a third and maybe their second, but we'll see. I like that idea.
So we got Craig Schweikard with the super chat, man. Thank you for supporting the show. He says Dory Jackson can come on a prove-it deal and return punts and kicks, former first rounder. I do like a Dory Jackson out of USC. I was surprised today when Tennessee released him, but he was an excellent returner in college. I think the Bills could probably have him on a 1 year, $4.5, $5 million deal. Is probably what a Dory Jackson could go for. Maybe a little bit more. What do you guys think his market value is?
What did Shaq Griffin get? 3 years, 30-something, 34? Yeah, Dory Jackson, I know he was hurt this past year, But I mean, he was good in 17, 18, and 19. He's got 3 years of good tape out there, and he's out 25 years old, super great, athletic player that's been part of good defenses. Yeah, I mean, he's not coming for, a ham sandwich. This guy's coming in for double digits per year would be my guess. If he wants a short-term deal, like, hey, I'm going to go prove it, it's going to be like a 1 year, $10 million deal. Whoa. But I think, Dory, he's been a good player. I'm not going to sit there and get my hopes up that he's going to come for nothing because, Tennessee is in a peculiar spot. They blew it big time last offseason. And it started with them not replacing Dean Pease as their defensive coordinator. This guy retires, and Mike Vrabel said, no, we're not comfortable with anyone. We want it to be done our way. We're not bringing anyone in. And I think then and there was a bad decision. Then they try to get some pass rushers opposite of Harold Landry, and they whiff on Jadeveon Clowney and Vic Beasley. So they can't get any pass rush. And their first-round pick, Isaiah Wilson, you guys know the situation. He's off the team. If you talk about whiffing, you didn't get your first-round pick right, you didn't get your coaching staff right, and you couldn't find pass rushers. And you tried. So they said, we're blowing this whole damn thing up on defense. They weren't going to run it back. So Dory Jackson's a good player. They drafted Christian Fulton last year in the second round. They're probably ready to hand him a starting position. And they needed that $10 million in cap space because this team doesn't have a right tackle and they don't have any wide receivers. And so they probably looked at it and said, hey, we've at least got a Christian Fulton that we can slide into this spot, but we have got to take that $10 million and go elsewhere. He didn't get cut because he's a bad player. It was circumstances, and I think he's going to get paid handsomely.
For what it's worth, Spot Track has his average annual value right now pegged at $12.4 million.
Yeah, I think that's sweet.
So to Joe's point, if he's signing like a 1 year, he's coming in at like $10 million.
Wow.
But the way the market is going, these guys are getting somebody put up that, Darby got $30 million. I bet those teams are kind of like, we should have waited 2 more days. Right? Like, wow, yeah, it's crazy out there.
Yeah, no, that's extremely high. But I mean, Dory Jackson, I wish the Bills would have drafted him as well. I like Dory Jackson coming out of college, and yes, he can return kicks and punts. He'd be a great addition.
So did Sterling just say he'd rather have Dory Jackson than Tre'Davious White?
No.
What did you just say?
No.
What did you just say?
No. Okay,
the two takeaways from this episode are Sterling wants Travis Etienne and Dory Jackson is better than Trey White.
Okay, let's pre-draft. Okay, let's be real. Pre-draft. All right. How many people actually knew? Now, Joe, Joe knows, but like actually know who Tre'Davious White was pre-draft, right? There's not a lot. And I thought Dory Jackson was a great prospect. Tre'Davious White in his own right has turned into much more than we can ever hope and dream.
Tre'Davious White invited to the draft? Like one of the promier prospects.
Yeah.
Jamarcus Russell was invited to the draft, and look at him.
Oh, but that's not a good comparison.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
While we're on the topic of, so I actually had Dory Jackson as one of the topics I wanted to bring up because I thought, it reminded me of the return man issue now that we've lost Andre Roberts. But another move that happened today that kind of intrigued me is Marquis Goodwin and what's going to happen with him, former Buffalo Bill. I don't know. He could be somebody you get really cheap. He opted out last season, so he didn't play. Some weird thing in the trade that I don't completely understand, but he was obviously with the Eagles. Apparently, he reverts back to San Francisco. They're expected to drop him. So maybe you can get a guy like that cheap, and he could be your kick return man.
We'll come back to that. Hold on, but Joseph.
Yeah, dude.
Matafari, that's the biggest chat that I've seen.
Let's go
on the show. So he says, do you see any circumstance where we would trade up? Love the weekly content. Joe, listen, you're the hired gun here, buddy. I'm going to let you swing for that one. What do you think about a trade-up scenario? And if there is a trade-up scenario, who would you trade up to go and get?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a trade-up scenario. You look at Brandon Beane's history. We were all surprised he didn't trade up last year, right? I mean, we're all waiting for it. This guy trading up for everybody all the time. So I do think that's in his DNA. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I do think that his history lends itself favorably to believing that he could trade up. And I mean, he's kind of already said it. When he's done some interviews, he's like, sitting at pick 30, that I'm going to want to move around. I'm going to be getting antsy. Like he's so self-aware. He knows that. So I can anticipate it. I think history tells us that it's very much a possibility. And the Bills are kind of in that situation where we start asking ourselves questions like, are they one player away? Can they go get one player and that's all they need? So, yeah, I think there's definitely a possibility. And I look at, okay, who are you going to move up for?
Right,
Maybe it's a pass rusher. Maybe it's Kwity Paye from Michigan, who really
Hey,
checks
hey,
the
hey.
boxes. Checks the boxes for what the
I'd
Bills
take
like in
that.
defensive ends, right? Like
Michigan
a super athlete. Maybe they do think that there's an X factor on offense that they want to go get. Maybe there's a corner that they like. I mean, there's definitely reasons to believe that that's in play. And so I wouldn't dismiss it. I'm not sitting here pounding the table saying I hope they do. I hope they go the other way because I want this team to get more draft picks and have more cheap labor and have more answers waiting in the wings as these guys get more expensive and Josh Allen costs $40 million a year. So I'm thinking like that. But if Bean says, hey, we're one player away and it's moving up in the first round, yeah, that's definitely his DNA. And Sterling, I want to bring things back here because I dogged you a little bit. I'm looking at my 2017 cornerback rankings, and I had a Dory Jackson 4 slots higher on my board than Trey.
Oh, wow. Way to own it, though. Way to own it.
Listen.
All right.
No, but I mean, look, I like Tre'Davious White. I'm not saying that Dory Jackson's a much better player than Tre'Davious White, but pre-draft, I mean, it wasn't a crazy assumption to want Dory Jackson either. I was honestly, if we really want to go back, and Eric, you and I have a history. I was wanting to, I was go quarterback. I was like, Deshaun Watson. I was a big on Deshaun Watson. Go get him. Patrick Mahomes. Go get him. And I will die on that hill. And I've been there. Listen, I was all quarterback at 2017 draft.
Such a big debate with the Hoof guys.
It is.
Too,
it is. We
all
go in
know
on that all the
John
time.
McDermott's a defensive coach. You can't pick a quarterback when you hire a defensive coach. He wants to build the defense.
With the talk of a Dory Jackson, another Jackson, and my heart is broken and I'm sad. William Jackson, formerly of the Cincinnati Bengals, signed with the Washington football team for 3 years, $42 million.
I love that
How
move.
heartbroken are you? Like reality, let reality kick in here. The Bills couldn't do that.
No.
No,
I mean, we all want William Jackson, but
1,000% for what he got. Like, no way. Like, I wasn't going to pay him that. I mean, I wasn't going to pay him that anyway because I'm not the Googles, but I wasn't going to give him that much money. Ton of money for that. I thought he had a shot of going for less. I didn't think he was going to go for what his spot track average annual value was projected at, which was $6.3 million. I thought he would go higher, but I would have been willing to give him some double-digit money, especially in like a 3-year-ish deal. But the fact, we weren't going to get him 42. For 42. No way. But I thought he could go lower, and I really liked his fit. But, I mean, it's corner for me. And now I'm really looking at corner in the first round of the draft, unless – because, I mean, just with these contracts given out, look at what Griffin got from Seattle. Look at what William Jackson just got. Look at what Darby got. And all the other corners that are on the market are going to get paid just like that. And the Bills are not in cash consideration for those top corners. So if we're looking to upgrade corner 2, it's got to come in the draft now for me. I don't think there's anyone – like, I like William Jackson, but I didn't think he was going to get 3 years, $42 million. And I lost – I think it's like – a pretty decent chunk of change that's guaranteed as
26.
well. There you go, 26. Yeah, so almost 30 mil. Like if that's what William Jackson is getting, it's gonna be tough for us to play in that sandbox. So it's the
scraping
draft.
the bottom of the barrel for the bargain bin at the end of the day.
Well, and the Bills are going to benefit from waiting this out, right?
Yes.
After the big signings are over, who's left? I think Brandon Beane is a wizard when it comes to that stuff, and I think. It's not off the table that they do sign a top corner, but just at a better price.
Yeah. So what we going? Levi Wallace, or we drafting a guy?
I mean, maybe top corner is a stretch, but I'm interested to see like Patrick Peterson. We talked about him earlier on Twitter, just to see because I'm not sure if Arizona is going to be in on it, but he's down to 3 teams. Two teams were in the playoffs the last 2 seasons. And Arizona obviously is in that mix as well. So I was just curious to know. There's only 7 teams that were in the playoffs the last 2 seasons. So I was curious to know if the Bills would be in on him.
He's going to go to Kansas City. I don't know why I feel it. Tyrann Mathieu is going to convince him, and they're going to be buddies, and he's going to go to Kansas City
for
much? Like $1. $1.
Right. That's the big thing. What's he going to get? Because sure, the Bills could be in, but
that's the big one, especially if you go with the the reports of him being open to potentially converting to safety in addition to just playing corner, and you look at where he could fit and what teams he could lock onto with that, and just being willing to do that. And listen, he's not like the Pat P he was when he first came out, but he's still athletic. He's still fast. He still has good size. Is he arguably like the top corner in the NFL anymore? No, but he's still very much above serviceable level, and I think he's going to get paid. The only way he doesn't get paid is if he goes to like a team like the Chiefs where he takes a deal that is favorable so he can win a championship.
And he's from Louisiana. New Orleans was, could be on that mix as well.
I think I find a lot of parallels in the situation with Xavier Rhodes and the Vikings to the Patrick Peterson situation. And Rhodes got 1 year, $3 million from Indianapolis, and he's going to parlay that into, I'm sure, $5, $6, $7 million a year from somebody. And the Colts should bring him back. But I think that's the case study that I would point to. I think Rhodes at one point was just like Peterson. Everyone was talking about them as like, who's the best corner in the league? It was one of those two guys. And Peterson, I think, is a little older than Rhodes.
He's 31 right now.
Yeah, I think playing the waiting game here is the smart move because they do have a history of manufacturing production out of players, and I don't think there's any reason to sit there and panic. I guess to me, the most interesting question, and I don't know that I know the answer to this, the interesting question to me is, what is Levi Wallace's market? So it's been so nice having him. Like, you knew that was the baseline. Like, okay, at least we have Levi Wallace. Well, now that we don't have Levi Wallace, what type of a deal does he command? Like, he's been a 2.5-year starter, and he's been on a good defense, and like statistically, he's been pretty good.
I think he got better every year too. I think that matters as well.
I mean, I think like Emmanuel Mosley in San Francisco, he got 2 years, 10. You got to Levi Wallace gets at least that, right? So he's no longer like this like $750,000 thing you have in your back pocket that gives you a starting caliber play. And obviously, it sounded like, based on reports yesterday, that the Bills had an offer to him, and
he was playing it out.
He
wants to test it. Yeah.
There's got to be a market for him, and he's
as
not
an
coming back for
undrafted guy,
peanuts.
you definitely can't blame him for wanting to go get paid.
Sure,
right?
Yeah.
And
he's earned it.
I was kind of surprised they didn't tender him a contract. I don't know what the number was, 2 point something, I think it was, right?
2.1 or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So they must say. My only thinking is that they said, okay, well, if we pay $2 million more, we can upgrade that position with one of these guys who we like as a veteran to come in and play this position. But I do think somebody's going to pay him. The way these cornerback contracts are going, it looks like he's going to get in the $5 million range. And I definitely don't think the Bills can pay him that.
Here's a question with that. Would you rather go Levi Wallace we'll use that as the benchmark, the Mosley deal. Would you rather go Levi Wallace 2 years, $10 million, or would you rather take a shot with a corner in round one?
Yeah, I would rather go cornerback round one. And I guarantee you, though, it's not just going to be a corner in round one. It'll be one of those veteran guys for either league minimum or $2 million or whatever it ends up being that are left on the market. They will bring in a veteran. I guarantee that. Basically, they're going to bring in some kind of veteran, whether it's somebody they pay to be the starting cornerback to and help the rookie, or we're drafting a rookie, but we're also signing a $1 million league minimum veteran out there who can help this team and fits,
Hey, so, we got Maybach Mel, 1804 Pats Nation in here. He's repping the Patriots. I don't know why you coming to hang out with us, but we appreciate you coming over, man.
That's okay. They can come learn. They can come learn.
We had a guy last night from the Pats in the chat telling us that COVID was the reason the Bills won the AFC East last year.
I love what
we got last night.
We literally laughed at him. It was fun. I do want to get back. I do want to get back to this super chat that, because he, gave us a pretty good donation there. So I think we should all maybe answer that one if we can. Can you pull it up again, Sterling? What was the original?
Oh, the trade up
was about trading up.
Yeah, if
there's a guy you would target, or what I definitely think what we talked about last night was the fact that Brandon Beane has made the moves he has lessened the amount of holes on the Bills roster, opening for the possibility that if there's a guy they really love, they could trade up. The one guy that my eyes light up for is Kyle Pitts, but obviously that's not happening.
Yeah,
way too high.
You got to do the Ditka Ricky Williams deal where you try to trade your whole draft.
Exactly. Yeah. So way too high, it's not going to happen. But that's what my eyes light up for. Yeah, exactly. Because I think he is, to me, the most NFL ready, the most sure thing in this entire draft from what I've seen. More than, any of the quarterbacks or whatever. This guy's going to be the number one receiver on whatever teams he's drafted.
Yeah, I think he could be the highest drafted tight end of all time, right, Joe?
Oh, really?
Wait, I need to know what the answer is. Who is the highest drafted tight end of all time?
I'm not sure, but
is it Kellen Winslow went what, 6?
High,
7?
Like
real high.
Hawkinson's at 8. I mean,
8. Wasn't Vernon Davis real high too?
Yeah, well, didn't he go
Vernon Davis
overall?
like
Didn't he go 5th
he was
overall?
up there.
Ooh.
Hold on, I'm looking it up.
In that conversation, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I think he doesn't get out. He doesn't get out of the top 10 for sure.
Yeah.
So
The
you're going
Giants.
from 30 to like 9?
It's a pie in the sky. Again, my eyes lit up. It's not realistic at all. I don't think they would ever do that. I think if they're going to trade up, it's going to be 5 or so spots where somebody who they really, really love is there, and they're willing to pull the trigger on something.
Kellen Winslow and Vernon Davis were both pick number 6
So yeah,
in the draft.
Okay.
So
he could go 5. Yeah.
He could go top 5. I think, it's too high. I'm on with what Joe said earlier. If we're trading up, I want a sure, dope, awesome corner or edge. And give me Quiddy all day from Michigan. And especially realistic nature of it. We're not going to be able to trade up into the top 10. But if we can get around into that late teens-ish area and get a shot at Quiddy, or if Patrick Surtain somehow falls, which that's like kind of maybe-ish, give me one of those guys. I'm completely holistically fine with trading up for them.
Let me tell you, and y'all know Michigan's that's my squad.
Yes.
Y'all already know that. And listen. What they've done with that defense is they've blown it. I mean, oh my God, Joe, I think I've talked to you a few times about that Michigan defense, but Quiddy Pay from day one has been that dude. He's better
his
than
name
Rashawn
is so
Gary.
Fun to say.
His first step off the line is unreal. I mean, this guy, and he's bendy and he's ferocious. Talk about character. Quiddy Pay is that dude. I would love for the Bills. We don't have any Michigan Wolverines on this roster. We got to get one somewhere. But yeah, if we were to trade up, Quiddy Pay is my guy. I love Quiddy Pay, man. That's totally my dude. He's pass rush tools. He's got it.
277 pounds, converted running back, runs in 4.5s, and he had what is his 3 cone? 6.37? That's stupid.
Wow.
Yep. That's stupid good. Is he at this point edge 1, like across a lot of people's boards? Is that a pretty consistent fair thing?
No, I think at the Draft Network we actually did our edge rankings today, and I think we had 4 different guys as edge 1. I had Pay. Wow. Jordan Reed had Azeez Ojulari. Kyle had Jalen Phillips. And I don't remember who Dre had, but it was somebody different. So there's not a clear answer to that question.
Yeah, right now on your big board, Draft Network, you guys have Quiddy Pay as your number 1, Jalen Phillips number 2, and Gregory Russo number 3. That's what you have right now.
I think that's.
I like Russo a lot, especially with him. Russo is somebody who could realistically fall to the Bills at 30. Oh, and with that size, and I know the production is limited, but oh man, the tools and the traits and what he's got going on between the ears, and that's just so much upside that I would sign up for. What player did you say?
I missed
Gregory Russo.
Okay.
Yeah, when you give me 4 names and say you all had different people, I get excited for that because I'm like, oh, better chance that somebody is still on the board because somebody else likes that guy. And it all depends on who the Bills have number 1 on their board. Obviously, that's
what's the deal. Russo, he opted out last season.
Yeah.
Jalen Phillips played.
Didn't play.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Jalen Phillips had a good year for a Miami defense. He went up.
It's going to be kind of a weird. It's going to be a weird year because you're almost going all in on athleticism and tape that you have from 2 years ago. I mean,
I'll take it.
Development standpoint, do you think that sets them back not playing football for a whole year? How big of a factor is that, I guess?
Big. For Gregory Russo, it's big. I'm glad you brought this up. I mean, this is a guy that played safety and wide receiver in high school. He's got 1 year of tape at Miami. You watch it, you see length, you see power, but you see a guy that doesn't know what the hell he's doing. I mean, he has no technique. There's no polish yet. So he's all traits. And I would take him at 30. We just all have to understand that we're not talking about returns for a year or two.
Exactly.
He's not a day 1 starter. Yeah.
So that's Trent Murphy role.
Don't ever say that name.
It's banned here. It's banned here.
Joe, what are your speaking of guys who opted out last year, Joe, what are your thoughts on Tryon from Washington?
Oh, not at 32 or
no,
whatever,
definitely
30.
not there. But like if he was there at 61 and we didn't go edge in the first round, what are your thoughts?
Okay. You know, I don't know. Like
said, okay.
I think that's the appropriate value for him. Like right there, I would probably like some of the players that they could get in the third round that have a little bit more polish. I know that sounds weird, but Tryon, you watch him play and there's just like, man, you're missing stuff here. Like the ability to know what pass rush moves to throw and when, and to take like good rush angles. He just doesn't do any of that stuff. And so I just don't know that you're going to get much there. I would rather go with like a Jordan Smith in the third round or a Victor Dimukeji in the third round compared to what I would have to, where I would have to draft Tryon.
Copy. No, I've seen him recently climbing up different people's boards and his name being thrown around. And granted, it's what I saw from him in the college all 22 was very limited from what I had. And granted, it was in 2019, but I just didn't get it. And I was like, am I missing something? Am I not connecting the dots?
He's missing something. Yeah, it's not you.
Okay.
You had, I think you watched the tape well there. It's just, it's like little things that you could just tell guys have or don't, like just like the right angles, like the way to use your feet to set up your pass rush move, the timing when you throw your hands, like that ability to press the angle. Like you could throw pass rush moves all day long, but if you're not leaning into that angle and attacking that near hip, like you're just going up the field, like you're never going to get home. So he needs work. And he was a really tough study because you see traits and you see good stuff, but you're like, why is this guy not more effective? You know,
especially given his size and his frame and body type. I was like, this is going to be sweet. And then I watched it and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
he looks more to me like a 3-4 outside linebacker. You know,
you might. So that's an interesting idea. I think from the perspective of you get away from some concerns that talked about with like angles and stuff, you get him standing up, different vantage points. I think that could help him, but I do think he has the build of a hand of the dirt 4-3 guy. Yeah.
So you think he could play that, 4-3 hand in the dirt? I mean, I just think he's probably going to need more to his bag. I mean, he's raw. I don't know, man. I don't like Joe Tryon from Washington. I just don't. He's not my flavor. When it comes to pass rushers, now I love a pass rusher with bend. A guy that can make an offensive tackle like really think twice.
So the thing about that is I don't know that that's a big meaningful trait for Sean McDermott, right? Like I hear you. I love that. I love guys that can run circles around people, but I don't think bend is a very big trait. Like think about Mario Addison, think about AJ Epinesa.
Yeah,
they inherited Harry Hughes, right?
They want power. They want power.
Yeah, think about tools. Charles Johnson, Coney Ely back in Carolina. Not the style of like Ojulari. I love Ojulari from Georgia. I don't know that the Bills will. I don't think they're going to see him as a fit.
Hey, speaking of guys, you got your guy Sterling. This is why I don't want the Bills to pick cornerback in the first round. Because I'm a Syracuse Orange fan, and this is the first time in a long time that we're talking about the possibility of a Syracuse Orange player getting drafted by the Buffalo Bills. And I'm super excited because I've watched games. I've watched Orangemen games, and I really like this guy. Talk about pronunciation, by the way. I'm not even going to try it.
Melifonwu, you got it.
Melifonwu. Okay,
Melifonwu.
See, right.
I love it.
And I've watched him play. I've heard his name for the last few years, and I still can't pronounce it. But yeah, I mean, I just love the way he looks too on the field. At least with Syracuse, they're not necessarily one of these top college football teams, but he looks like the best player on the field when he's out there, and I love it.
Yeah, you know what? And I wouldn't be mad if they drafted him at 30 overall. I mean, he's probably a second round prospect, but I do like his length. He is he's an athletic freak. Like, give me that if you look, I would be okay, and you will not hear me complain at all if you go and you draft Melifonwu at pick 30. Yeah, I won't say a word because he gives you something that you don't have in the Bills' backfield, and I think
30 might be a little high, but second round.
Look, just think about what McDermott can do with cornerbacks and how he coaches them up and turns them into maybe something that they, who thought Levi Wallace would be anything special, right? Levi Wallace is all right. He's a decent cornerback, man. I think Sean McDermott has the ability to coach him up a little bit higher than what they normally turn into. So I would love for the Bills to kind of to kick the tires on him. And they've had visits with him. And that's confirmed, right, Joe? The Bills have had visits with Melifonwu.
So. Yeah, and Trill Williams, the other guy.
The other cornerback,
he as a true freshman, he played outside corner, and then he for some reason he played slot in the last 2 years. Don't know why. But I guess I kind of like that because you can see him doing that. Like, you don't have to guess if he can play like inside and do more like matchup specific type stuff. So in my list of guys that I'm interested in for like a big nickel role, a versatile DB, Trill Williams is definitely in that mix.
Nice.
I think he should be in consideration in the second round, if not definitely in the third.
Yeah. Well, he's 6'2", right? 6'2", got.
I don't know the measurables on Trill.
Well, I know Melifonwu's 6'2", 212.
Yes.
I mean, he's
got that length too.
Size. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Trill Williams is around 6'2".
Maybe a little leaner.
Yeah. Who does he remind you of? If you had to put a player comp on him, who does he remind you of?
Let me see who I put as my player comp because I have one on every player.
Specialty. There you go. Yeah,
I love player comps because they're so much fun.
I hate them.
I was gonna say I hate them.
Time I have to spend.
They're fun. They're just fun.
Player comp
because you don't have. They're just fun. You just throw it out there.
They are fun. Yeah. They are fun, but they require a lot of thought. Who did I put down? We're about to find out. It's loading. I have 10,000 tabs open.
Do you think that one of those two is more likely to go to the Bills in terms of where we're picking and all of that? If we don't go corner in the first round, obviously, do you think one of will still be there in the second, or do you not get him in the second because he goes early and you get one of them in the third?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it just comes down to if they're going to get one of them, it's probably at 60.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I mean, flip a coin.
Whichever one is there. Yeah.
Yeah, I hate my comp. I don't want to talk about it.
You got to say it now. You have to now.
You get one pass, okay?
Kellow Witherspoon is who I have down. And
he
from a body type and athleticism perspective, I like it. What I don't like about it is Witherspoon is allergic to being physical and tackling, and Melifonwu is not. So from like body type, stylistic perspective and coverage, I like it, but the physicality component is missing. But we're talking about 6'2", 212 guys that are like long and athletic, so it's hard to find like really clean comparisons. I did come up with my idea for cornerback too as we were talking.
Okay, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Like, because we have to be realistic here and like think economic options.
Right.
Ross Cockrell.
Ooh,
I know that you guys aren't probably like, like
fourth round pick. Get the fourth round pick out of
Duke.
Yeah, and he's been a good player in the NFL. In fact, here his passer rating against his coverage for his entire career is 82.5, which is really good.
Wow.
And he's been kind of like a fill-in guy. With Pittsburgh, he got some run. The Giants, he wound up getting some run. Carolina, he was a rotational player for Tampa this past year. I think as a guy to have in addition to a first or second round pick, I can get behind that because, I mean, he signed 1 year, $910,000 last year with Tampa Bay, and he played 238 snaps for them this past year. He doesn't have a big price tag for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I think as we're thinking realistic economic options that fit, he's worth talking about. 6 foot 190, ran a 4.4.
It's the first I've heard his name, but you make a good case for it, especially, again, at the veteran guy who can come in and possibly you're going to most likely draft somebody behind him as well, obviously. But
he's
short term.
He's been productive because he left Buffalo, went to Pittsburgh, started a decent amount of games for Pittsburgh his first year there. And that was one of those dudes where it was like, oh man, did we miss out on like another good dude? Like he's out here starting for the Steelers and he's gone around, but that's a really good call out, Joe, because we're going to bring in somebody like that. The Bills love to do something like that, whether it's like the EJ Gaines deal or the Josh Norman deal, bringing in some sort of affordable vet that can either stabilize the position or provide some sort of rotational depth and play meaningful snaps, but not carry the whole load. That's a good call.
Yeah. Kevin Johnson, former Bill who went to Cleveland, but then got cut. Did he?
Injury
I don't know.
Yeah, I want
He had
to
an
Before
injury.
the Bills, I know that.
Yeah, I think he had one this year too.
He had an injury in
Oh.
training camp. He missed the first 3 games of the season.
See,
Was
that's
that
the
it?
mistake. That's the mistake he made. He left Buffalo. He came to Buffalo. He was healthy a whole year. He leaves Buffalo. He gets injured again. So maybe he'll come back and stay healthy.
Hey, so y'all wondering what I'm eating? Mike and Ike, baby. Mike and Ike, get you some.
Snack time for Sterling.
Hell yeah.
Got to have that sugar to get you through.
Oh, and we got the deals for Matt Hawk, punter extraordinaire, 3 years, $5.5 million with incentives that can push it to $7 million. He gets $3.25 million guaranteed.
So he's cheaper than Bojorquez would have been.
1,000%. Which, I mean, not that Bojorquez was going to be crazy expensive, but he was going to cost more than we wanted to have our punter cost, given the other financial commitments we have to make. So you get a dude who comes way cheaper and hopefully can. It's just concerning.
Doesn't say his 2021 cap hit.
No,
because I'm sure that's the lowest of the 3, as we're expecting, as all of these contracts are being focused on that. So
imagine. So I'm digging.
And somebody asked on Ertz, Benjamin Albright tweeted about 30 minutes ago that the Bills are in on Ertz, whatever that means. So
the truth Ertz.
I'm sure there's a lot of teams in on Ertz.
Anything could be popping. But all right, fellas, I think that's going to wrap it up for tonight, man. That's an hour and 30 minutes of content for you. Make sure you keep it locked in with the Hoof Podcast, Cover One Network. We got disguised covers, but Joe, I mean, you are the prime guest here. Tell our fans again where they can find you and where to look for you at.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me. This was fun. You guys had some really good ideas, and I'm going to steal some of these takes. So but I won't give you any credit for it. So just know that.
Fair game. Fair game.
The best place to keep track of all the work is on Twitter at the Joe Marino. And then Locked On Bills daily podcast on the Buffalo Bills. I'm going to go do that after we get done here. So
nice
for tomorrow.
A little later these days, huh? Because you have to see all the moves done for the.
I hate it. I hate it so much. I'm normally done with Locked On Bills like sometime mid-afternoon, and I get it all scheduled to run at midnight. And now it's just like if the Bills do something significant and
you gotta,
I don't talk about it. It's going to be a bad podcast. Like, it's going to have no legs. So, I mean, if I would have recorded my normal time, I would have had anything that happened today. Lee Smith trade, Emmanuel Sanders, the Ertz rumblings. None of that was true at 3:00 when I normally record the podcast. So, I'm having to reverse my schedule a little bit this week. But Bills Mafia, you guys know it. We are Bills Mafia. It's a passionate group, and they deserve. They deserve our best, and that's what's so fun about serving this fan base is because everybody cares so much, and so you can't half-ass anything. You have to give your best, and we'll stay up a little bit late during free agency week to make sure that we do that.
Yeah, man, keep locked into Twitter. All of us, we're all on Twitter. We're sharing information or whatever we hear, and some people have sources. Others don't, but make sure you, if you're going to retweet something or like something, make sure you look who's tweeting it, because there are a lot of fake accounts out there. And I won't say any names, but some of us have been victim to that already. So, so anyway, man, keep it locked in. Joe Marino, Cover One, Locked On Bills, Disguised Coverage, Hoof Podcast, man. You guys keep it real, stay safe, get your stimmy, and we out of here.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.